Welcome back to another video. Today I want to go over building this driveway, what it took, the cost of it, what went into it, what I learned, what I did right, what I would have did differently, and I just want to go over this project because it was a pretty intensive project for me. But first let's look at kind of what we started with. Unfortunately, I didn't do much video, really hardly any video of what this once looked like, but this used to be a deer trail that went almost straight up this bluff. Alright, so let's start at the beginning. This is the beginning of my driveway. This is where my land starts. But this whole area here, I actually did a significant amount of work. So you can see that road comes down, it's probably, I don't know, 15 feet wide or so. That used to be about that width all the way through here. That area, I had to fill all that in to make not only an entrance but more of a area that you can turn around if you need to, or do whatever you gotta do, or park up here. It's also been a good spot for dumping stone where it's not blocking anybody's way. So here's the edge of where this is filled in. Some of this is probably 15 feet or so up, and this took a significant amount of fill to fill this in. Luckily I was able to get some of the fill for free when some flooding had happened within our village, and the village maintenance guy needed a spot to put the stuff that had washed off the bluff. So he hauled that up here, and that was probably, I want to say that was probably around maybe 100 tons or so of material. And I bought breaker rock, and I used some of my excess rocks from building my rock wall to put this in here, and that was probably at least another 100 tons, maybe more. So between the free fill and the fill that I bought, this is probably 200 to 250 tons of material just to build this little turnaround here and a better entrance, because my property used to just drop about a few feet or so straight down off the road. So I do have a couple pictures of what this looked like when I had first started clearing. And I had started putting a driveway straight down. And it was going to go down around that big oak tree and then switch back down. And I had started building it that way, but it didn't work out. It ended up being too steep. So I changed gears and went down this way, which ended up being a lot better. And I had this area here put in with a dozer originally, but that didn't really work out either, so I ended up having to have an excavator, a bigger excavator than I had access to, come and do some more serious excavation. So this area here that I'm walking on is probably a good 7 feet of fill. And then as it kind of plateaus here, there's almost no fill right here, just besides the rock. So there's probably about a foot or foot and a half, probably closer to a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet of rock right here. So one thing I had really screwed up on when I put this road in for the third time, actually, I didn't put any ditches in. I just kind of assumed that the water would find its way down, but that ended up not working out. Water can be really destructive, and this year in particular for my area has been a bad year for rain and erosion. So I had to put ditches and culverts in to help guide the water. And it still isn't perfect. I'm still working on it, but the road does have a good consistent crown all the way along it. There's no areas that are not crowned, and I have 4 culverts that help water move from one side to the other. This area here was all wooded. Most of the trees that were on this section were not giant. The biggest ones were maybe like 15 or 16 inches or so. So here's my first culvert here. This lets water that's built up off this hill here, and then it comes down this ditch, lets that cross off and daylight out there into this other kind of ditch that I planted all these wildflowers in. This area here was really a hassle to dig this ditch in. This is like bedrock, or I don't know if you want to call it bedrock, but these are embedded stones here. These flat stones here, and this big one. This is all like part of the mountain. So this was really hard to dig this out and get this to actually be low enough to get the water off of the road. And then I put some of this kind of riprap type material in here to kind of slow water down. I don't know if that was really that necessary, if I'm being honest, because I feel like it slows it down, but then it catches sediment, and then you end up getting sediment built up in this riprap, and you almost have to like clean it. So I don't know if that was really that great of an idea, because I could just dig this down to solid rock, and I probably could have just left it like that. And areas like this that looks like it's just dirt coming down there, but that's all rock. It's just got a little bit of clay on it that's kind of stuck on it. So that's not like gonna erode there. That's pretty well stable. So there was a time where I had this road coming down from the cedar tree to where I'm standing right now. And that's how I put it in originally, with a mini excavator, where I thought I could tackle this project myself. So it came from there down to where I am now, and then it went down to where all that brush is and kind of made a swoop by them cedar trees, and then came out by them 2 walnuts. So this area here is built up from where my old road was. I want to say probably 20 feet right here, maybe a touch more. And this was all rock that was excavated from here. And there's really not much dirt in it. It's primarily just rock. This used to be a quarry, and it wasn't a quarry for no reason. So now we come around here. See, this area was all excavated, so right now I would have been partially underground, because this came as a steep hill down, all the way down, probably 15-20 feet down to where I had my old road down there. So as I pass the truck here, this area I haven't really finished, I guess. I could still use some more stone on this. And it's starting to grow up some weeds and stuff in it. But this section here was a road at one point. This was a road about 150 years ago when this was a quarry. So this big bluff behind me was quarried for stone to build houses in this town in the 1800s, and they would take stone down this road on horse and buggy. But it hasn't been a quarry in over 100 years, and this was really not a drivable path, and it also doesn't exit. It exits on my land to somebody else's land before it actually hits a road. And the old quarry road used to go this way and off of my property as well, so I couldn't really keep going that way. I had to kind of come the other direction to make this work. But as we come down here, I've got this rock wall. This was all built from rocks that were pulled out of the hill when we were excavating, and I got this other ditch here that runs into a culvert that daylights in the woods. And then as we come around the corner, it turns into more of a logging road, which does actually connect to a main road in town eventually. So, but that goes through the woods. I didn't really care about getting a truck down past this point. I just wanted to be able to get something here, because where I got my skid steer up here, I'd really like to build kind of like a pavilion kind of structure to just sit here and you know, enjoy the river, enjoy the view, and just spend some time outside, have a little campfire and stuff. So I wanted to be able to get down to this point for that reason, and plus this makes this property a lot more valuable. This property was for sale for years before I bought it, and nobody was buying it because it was so inaccessible. But now I've made it more accessible than most lots up here, actually. A lot of people have never been on the lower section of their land here. This is kind of a ritzy subdivision, and people have 6-7 acres usually, and they've only been on 1 acre of it. I was able to buy a couple more parcels around me, so I'm up to about 20 acres, which is really nice. It's good to have like a little bit more land, and it gives me enough room to get down off the bluff without having a path that goes straight down. Alright, so I do have some before video of what this area used to once look like. And for context, where the truck is, that's built up probably about 4 feet from what it used to be. And all of this rock that is coming out of the ground was all underground. So this was all a hill that came down, and it kept sloping and sloped pretty much consistently with like a little bit of a flat spot and then back down. So there was quite a bit of material excavated here, and some of that went to the road and some of it just went to flatten this area out. So now the big question, what did this cost and what would I have done differently? So the initial excavation that I did, I just borrowed a mini excavator from a family member and was able to do my original road. So I probably only had a few $100 in the fuel with that. So if we say that's, let's say that's 300, we'll add that into the calculator. So then when I had a dozer guy come build this for the second time, he charged me about $2,700, but he did some other work on the land while he was here. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that that was $1,500. So after I had the first guy come through with the dozer and I realized it was gonna be too steep, I had hired an excavator to come back and dig this out. And then he actually also came back with a dozer afterwards and kind of graded it. And that was $3,750 to do that work. But that also included flattening off the lower portion of the quarry. So I'm gonna say that that was about $3,000. So on top of the excavation costs that I've had to bring in a lot of stone. And I would venture to say that this has been about 500 tons of stone on this road, and then probably about 200 to 250 in the turnaround. So somewhere around 750 tons of stone. So 750 tons of stone is 1.5 million pounds. So it's pretty wild to think that I moved all that material by myself with my skid steer, just one bucket at a time up and down this hill. It's pretty crazy to think that I was able to do that, and that was all within this past year. So all the stone that I ended up buying came to around $6,000. So I had about $6,000 worth of stone, and so I got the stone, I got the excavation cost, the fuel for the original trailblazing, and then I have fuel for my skid steer to do all this work. And I have not really keeping track of how much it has cost me for fuel to do this project, but I'm going to guess it's somewhere around $750. So the only other cost that I can think of that I had to fork out outright was the cost of the culverts. And there's 4 culverts, and altogether they were around $1,000 for all 4 of them. So if you add all that up, that comes to about $12,550 that I've spent building this driveway. So was it worth all that money? I'm going to say yes, because this property was inaccessible before. I bought this original property for $75,000. And I would venture to say that just the original acreage that I bought for $75,000 after adding this road is probably worth over 100 now. So all in all, I think it was a decent investment. I definitely would have done things differently. I would have planned it out better from the beginning to just build this once, and it would have saved me several $1,000s to do that. And I also would have had the excavator put in ditches from the beginning, so I didn't have to come back and try to do that with a smaller machine, because it is just not easy to dig in this rock here. But all in all, I'm quite pleased with how the driveway is right now. It isn't perfect, and I don't know if it's ever going to be completely done unless I were to pave it or something, and that's just not in the cards. We don't actually live on this land. We live attached to it, but not up here. We live actually at the base of the hill, so right now it's really not a priority. I don't use this driveway all the time. I use it several times a week, but usually just with a side-by-side, so it's not really a priority to make it any nicer than it is right now. It's just a priority to keep it well maintained. So a project like this is quite the undertaking for a DIY project, and I'm not sure that I would recommend it to everybody. But if you're somebody that you don't really mind having to redo something, or you don't really mind, learning as you go, I think that this is a project that you could take on yourself. I had some experience with excavation and whatnot, but I've learned a lot from this project. So it's been really nice. I was able to learn stuff from it, and I was able to improve my land, make it more accessible. And now I'll have a driveway that I can use pretty much forever. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. And let me know what you would have done differently with this driveway. See you on the next one.